Every morning, the weakest version of you wakes up before you do. It opens its eyes quietly and hopes you won't notice it. It hopes you'll stay still. It hopes you'll delay. It hopes you'll repeat yesterday. Because it knows something important. If you let it live in the morning, it will control your entire day. So every morning is not about starting fresh. It is about eliminating what no longer deserves to lead you. The first thing you must kill is hesitation. The moment you wake up, do not pause to negotiate with your thoughts. Hesitation gives weakness time to speak. The longer you lie there, the louder excuses become. Move immediately. Stand up before your mind creates reasons not to. Speed in the morning is strength. Kill the snooze habit, because snoozing is training yourself to ignore commitments. Every time you hit snooze, you tell your brain that promises can be postponed. That lesson does not stay in bed. It follows you into your goals, your work, your discipline. Get up the first time. Win the first battle. Kill excuses early. Excuses feel intelligent, logical, and harmless, but they are the favorite language of weakness. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need motivation. You don't need permission. The morning is not for explaining. It is for executing. Kill comfort. Comfort is the most dangerous enemy because it feels like safety. Warm beds, easy routines, familiar patterns all tell you to stay the same. Growth requires discomfort. If the morning feels too comfortable, you are not becoming stronger. Kill laziness in the body. A still body invites a lazy mind. Move, stretch, breathe deeply. Activate your muscles. Command your posture. When the body obeys, the mind stops arguing. Strength starts physically before it becomes mental. Kill negative self-talk before it gains momentum. That voice that reminds you of your past failures, your limitations, your doubts does not deserve the microphone in the morning. Replace words with action. Action silences doubt better than any affirmation ever could. Kill distraction. Do not give your morning to your phone, to noise, to other people's opinions. The weak version of you loves distraction because distraction steals focus without resistance. Protect the first hour of your day like your future depends on it, because it does. Kill emotional attachment to yesterday. Yesterday's mistakes, successes, anger, and regret do not belong in today's sunrise. Carrying them weakens your clarity. Let them go. Today demands a clean mind and steady breath. Kill the victim mindset. Nothing is happening to you in the morning. Everything is being offered to you. Responsibility is power. Blame is weakness. The moment you take full responsibility for how you start your day, you regain control. Kill small standards. Do not aim to survive the day. Aim to command it. Raise your expectations of yourself before the world lowers them for you. Weakness lives where standards are low and accountability is optional. Kill impatience. Strength is built through consistency, not intensity. You do not need dramatic mornings, you need disciplined ones. Do the basics well. Repeat them daily. Let time do its work. Kill the old identity. The version of you that quits, delays, avoids discomfort, and waits for motivation must die every single morning. Not once. Not occasionally. Daily. Because it will try to return. It always does. When you eliminate these things early, the rest of the day becomes easier. Not because life becomes lighter, but because you become stronger. You do not need to conquer the world at sunrise. You only need to conquer yourself. When you win the morning, The weak version of you has nowhere left to hide. Mornings decide who you become because they set the tone before the world starts pulling you in 1,000 directions. When you wake up, your mind is raw, unshaped, unprotected. Whatever you allow into it, it first begins to sculpt your identity for the rest of the day. If you start in chaos, you will move through chaos. If you start in discipline, your actions naturally fall into order. This is not philosophy for decoration. It is a law that plays out quietly every single day. The morning is the one moment where you are closest to your true self, before excuses wake up, before fear finds its voice, before comfort starts negotiating with your potential. When you delay the morning, you train your mind to hesitate. The smallest decisions at dawn become rehearsals for much bigger ones later. Getting out of bed when it is uncomfortable teaches you that discomfort is survivable. Staying in bed teaches you that relief is more important than growth. These lessons do not disappear after breakfast. They echo through your work, your relationships, and the way you face challenges. A person who conquers the morning rarely feels overwhelmed by the day because they have already proven to themselves that they can lead instead of follow their impulses. The body is especially honest in the morning. It reveals what you have been feeding it, how you have been treating it, and whether you have been consistent or careless. Stretching a stiff body, breathing deeply, moving with intention are not fitness rituals, they are signals of authority. When the body obeys early, the mind follows more easily. When the body is ignored, the mind becomes restless and weak. Strength is not built in dramatic moments, but in quiet repetition, and the morning offers the cleanest repetition available. Silence in the morning has power because it sharpens awareness. Without constant noise, you hear your own thoughts clearly, including the ones you usually avoid. This is uncomfortable, which is exactly why it matters. Avoiding silence teaches you to run from yourself. Sitting with it teaches you control. In that silence, you begin to notice patterns, what distracts you, what excites you, what scares you. Awareness is the foundation of change, and the morning provides the clearest mirror. Discipline practiced in the morning does not require motivation. Motivation comes and goes, but structure remains. When you do the same constructive actions every morning, regardless of mood, you stop identifying as someone who needs to feel inspired. You become someone who acts because it is time to act. This shift in identity is subtle but permanent. You no longer ask how you feel before moving forward. You move forward and let feelings adjust later. The morning also defines how you relate to time. Rushing teaches panic. Planning teaches control. When you wake early enough to move without urgency, you send a message to yourself that you are ahead, not behind. This reduces anxiety and increases clarity. A calm morning creates a calm nervous system, and a calm nervous system makes better decisions. People often look for complex solutions to stress, ignoring the simple truth that stress often begins with chaotic mornings repeated for years. What you consume in the morning matters as much as what you do. Information, conversations, and screens all leave marks. Filling your mind with noise before direction is chosen hands' control to the outside world. Choosing stillness, reflection, or learning first gives you ownership over your mental state. Ownership builds confidence, not the loud kind, but the quiet certainty that comes from self-command. Mornings also reveal honesty. You cannot lie to yourself when no one is watching. Promises made the night before either get honored or broken. Each time you keep a promise to yourself in the morning, self-respect grows. Each time you break one, it weakens. Self-respect is not built through praise from others, but through private victories no one sees. These victories accumulate slowly until they change how you carry yourself. The way you face resistance in the morning determines how you face resistance everywhere else. If you avoid effort when it is smallest, you will avoid it when it is largest. If you meet resistance calmly and deliberately, challenges later feel familiar instead of threatening. The mind learns patterns faster than lessons, and mornings are the most consistent pattern you have access to. Over time, mornings shape identity, not through intensity, but through consistency. You do not become disciplined from one perfect morning, but from hundreds of ordinary ones handled correctly. You do not become strong by force, but by choosing the harder option when it quietly presents itself. Each sunrise offers a choice between comfort and command, and whichever you choose becomes easier to choose again. The person you are becoming is not decided by rare moments of courage, but by the repeated decisions made before the day officially begins. When the morning is treated as sacred, life feels intentional. When it is treated casually, life feels reactive. Control does not arrive suddenly. It is practiced daily in small, deliberate ways, in the stillness before the noise, in the actions taken when excuses are still asleep, in the quiet moment where you choose who you are going to be before the world tries to decide for you. Weakness survives on comfort and delay because comfort dulls urgency and delay weakens resolve. Weakness does not attack loudly or forcefully. It waits patiently for moments when you choose ease over effort and later over now. It feeds on small permissions you give yourself, the harmless, seeming decisions that feel justified in the moment, but slowly erode discipline. Comfort whispers that nothing is wrong, that you have time, that you deserve to relax. Delay nods in agreement and promises that action can always happen tomorrow. Together, they create a cycle that feels safe while quietly stealing your potential. Comfort is attractive because it feels like relief. It removes pressure, softens responsibility, and gives the illusion of peace. But comfort is not peace, it is avoidance dressed as rest. True rest restores you, while comfort often numbs you. When you stay where it is warm and familiar, your mind stops adapting, your body stops responding, and your standards begin to lower without you noticing. Weakness thrives in this environment because nothing challenges it. It does not need to fight for survival when you protect it with routine and excuses. Delay is comfort's most loyal companion. Delay stretches the distance between intention and action until intention loses its power. When you say you will start later, you train your mind to believe that decisions do not require immediate follow-through. This weakens trust in yourself. Over time, your mind stops taking your plans seriously because history has taught it that plans are optional. This is how confidence erodes, not through failure, but through repeated postponement. The danger of delay is that it feels responsible. You tell yourself you are waiting for the right time, the right energy, the right conditions. But perfect conditions rarely arrive, and waiting becomes a habit. Weakness hides behind logic. convincing you that patience is wisdom, when in reality it is fear avoiding exposure. Action reveals ability and limitation, while delay preserves illusion. Weakness prefers illusion because it cannot survive clarity. Comfort and delay also change how you experience effort. When effort is avoided too often, it starts to feel heavier than it actually is. Tasks that once felt manageable begin to feel overwhelming because your tolerance has lowered. This creates a false belief that you are incapable, when in truth you are simply untrained. Strength is built by repeated exposure to difficulty, and weakness grows when difficulty is consistently avoided. There is a quiet satisfaction in choosing comfort, a temporary emotional reward that fades quickly. But the cost appears later, disguised as regret, frustration, or self-doubt. You begin to wonder why progress feels slow, why motivation feels absent, why discipline feels unnatural. The answer is rarely dramatic. It lies in the small moments where comfort was chosen instead of commitment, where delay replaced decision. Weakness does not want you to fail publicly. It wants you to never fully try. Comfort protects you from discomfort, but it also protects you from discovering what you are capable of. Delay keeps your potential theoretical, safe from risk and judgment. As long as things remain unfinished, you can imagine success without confronting the work required to earn it. Weakness prefers dreams over action because dreams demand nothing. The body understands this dynamic instinctively. When it is kept comfortable too long, it loses resilience. Muscles weaken, posture collapses, breath becomes shallow. The mind follows the same pattern. When challenged regularly, it sharpens. When sheltered, it softens. This is why small disciplines matter. They interrupt comfort and collapse delay. They force engagement before weakness has time to negotiate. Comfort also blurs the sense of urgency that gives life direction. Without urgency, priorities drift. Important things become optional, and optional things consume attention. Delay stretches goals so far into the future that they lose emotional weight. When nothing feels urgent, everything feels replaceable, including your own standards. Weakness benefits from this fog because it thrives when nothing feels pressing enough to demand action. Breaking this cycle does not require aggression, but awareness. You begin by noticing where comfort has become a default and where delay has become automatic. The moment you see these patterns clearly, their power weakens. Weakness relies on unconscious behavior. Conscious choice disrupts it. Choosing the slightly harder option, acting when you feel resistance, moving before you feel ready. These small acts shift identity over time. The discomfort you avoid is often the very thing that would strengthen you. Leaning into it early prevents it from growing larger later. Delayed effort does not disappear. It accumulates with interest. What you avoid today returns tomorrow heavier and more demanding. Weakness hopes you do not realize this because once you do, comfort loses its appeal. Strength is not built by dramatic acts of courage, but by repeated refusals to obey comfort and delay. Each time you act when it would be easier not to, you weaken weakness itself. It begins to lose its familiar ground. Comfort no longer feels safe, and delay no longer feels harmless. What once felt difficult becomes normal, and what once felt normal begins to feel like stagnation. Over time, choosing action over delay reshapes how you see yourself. You no longer identify as someone who needs the perfect moment. You become someone who creates momentum regardless of conditions. Comfort stops being a refuge and becomes a reward earned after effort. Weakness struggles to survive in this environment because it depends on permission and you stop giving it freely. Discipline is stronger than motivation because motivation is emotional and temporary, while discipline is structural and dependable. Motivation rises when conditions are favorable and disappears when they are not. Discipline remains regardless of mood, energy, or circumstance. Relying on motivation means placing your progress in the hands of how you feel, and feelings are unpredictable. Discipline removes emotion from the equation and replaces it with commitment. It does not ask whether you want to act. It simply moves you forward because the decision has already been made. Motivation feels powerful in the beginning. It creates excitement, vision, and a rush of energy that makes action feel effortless. But this surge fades quickly because it is fueled by emotion rather than identity. When the excitement wears off, the work remains. Discipline is what carries you through that phase, the quiet force that keeps you moving when nothing feels inspiring. It does not rely on intensity. It relies on consistency. This is why discipline outlasts motivation every time. Discipline also builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through without needing motivation, you reinforce the belief that you are reliable. This trust becomes confidence, not the loud kind that seeks validation, but the grounded kind that comes from knowing you will do what you said you would do. Motivation cannot build this trust because it comes and goes. Discipline shows up repeatedly, proving itself through action. When you wait for motivation, you give control to external factors. Weather, mood, energy, praise, or criticism all begin to influence whether you act. Discipline takes that control back. It creates a fixed structure that protects progress from chaos. You act because it is time, not because it feels good. This creates momentum that motivation alone cannot sustain. Momentum then becomes its own source of energy, making discipline easier over time. Discipline simplifies decision-making. When rules are clear, there is no internal debate. You do not waste mental energy asking whether you should act. You already know the answer. This reduces friction and fatigue. Motivation, on the other hand, invites negotiation. It encourages questions like how you feel or whether today is different. These questions open the door for excuses. Discipline closes that door before weakness can enter. The body responds better to discipline than motivation. Motivation may push you hard one day and disappear the next, creating inconsistency. Discipline trains the body gradually and reliably. Small, repeated actions build strength, endurance, and resilience. Over time, the body adapts, and what once felt difficult becomes normal. Motivation chases extremes. Discipline builds foundations. The same applies to the mind. Discipline trains focus, patience, and emotional control. By acting even when resistance is present, you teach the mind that discomfort is not a threat. This reduces fear and increases tolerance for challenge. Motivation avoids discomfort by depending on feeling good first. Discipline accepts discomfort as part of the process and moves forward anyway. Discipline also protects you from burnout. Motivation often leads to overexertion during highs and total inactivity during lows. Discipline creates balance. It encourages steady effort instead of emotional extremes. This steadiness is sustainable. Progress made through discipline compounds quietly, while motivation-driven progress often collapses under its own intensity. Another strength of discipline is that it reshapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries when inspired and start seeing yourself as someone who acts by principle. Identity-based action is powerful because it does not require constant reinforcement. You do not ask if you feel like doing the work. You do it because it is who you are. Motivation may spark change, but discipline is what makes it permanent. Discipline also removes the fear of starting. Motivation often delays action because you wait to feel ready. Discipline starts before readiness appears. This builds courage through action, not anticipation. Once you begin, resistance usually weakens. Discipline understands this pattern and uses it. Motivation rarely does because it waits for comfort. Consistency achieved through discipline compounds over time. Small actions, repeated daily, create results that feel disproportionate to the effort invested. This compounding effect is invisible in the beginning, which is why motivation struggles to sustain it. Discipline does not need visible rewards to continue. It trusts the process. This trust is what allows long-term goals to be reached. Discipline is also honest. It does not promise ease or enjoyment. It promises progress. Motivation often exaggerates the pleasure of success while minimizing the effort required. Discipline accepts the reality of effort and prepares you to meet it. This realism prevents disappointment and builds resilience. When discipline becomes a habit, it reduces reliance on willpower. Actions become automatic, requiring less mental effort. Motivation requires constant renewal, while discipline runs on routine. This efficiency frees mental energy for creativity and problem-solving rather than self-control battles. In moments of stress, motivation is usually the first to disappear. Discipline remains because it is not tied to emotion. During uncertainty or difficulty, discipline provides stability. It keeps you grounded when everything else feels unpredictable. This stability is what allows long-term growth in uncertain environments. Ultimately, discipline creates freedom. By committing to structure, you reduce chaos. By choosing consistent effort, you reduce regret. Motivation offers bursts of inspiration, but discipline offers direction. It turns potential into progress, intention into action, and effort into identity. The body must obey before the mind follows, because the body is closer to reality than thought. The body exists in the present moment, while the mind often drifts into excuses, fears, memories, and imagined futures. When the body moves, breathes, and acts, it sends a signal of certainty that the mind cannot ignore. Action grounds thought. Movement interrupts overthinking. Stillness chosen by discipline is different from stillness chosen by avoidance, and the body knows the difference immediately. The mind loves to negotiate. It analyzes, delays, doubts, and searches for certainty before committing. The body does not debate, it responds to commands. When you tell your body to stand up, it either does or it doesn't. There is no philosophy involved. This is why starting with the body is so powerful. Once the body is in motion, the mind is forced to adapt. Thoughts align with action, not the other way around. Waiting for mental readiness often means waiting forever. Physical action changes internal chemistry, Breathing deeply, straightening posture, walking with intention, or engaging muscles shifts hormones and nervous system responses. Anxiety decreases, clarity increases, and focus sharpens. These changes happen before any conscious thought catches up. The mind then explains what the body has already decided. This is not weakness of thought. It is how humans are wired. The body leads, and the mind follows its cues. When the body is passive, the mind becomes restless. Inactivity gives the mind space to create problems, magnify doubts, and replay fears. Movement limits this space. It anchors attention. This is why discipline often begins with simple physical acts, making the bed, stretching, walking, breathing. These actions are not symbolic. They are functional. They establish order and authority. The mind recognizes this authority and gradually falls in line. Training the body also trains tolerance for discomfort. Muscles learn to work under strain. Breath learns to remain steady under pressure. Posture learns to hold even when tired. The mind watches this and absorbs the lesson. It learns that discomfort does not mean danger. This reduces fear. Many mental limits dissolve once the body proves that effort is survivable. The mind stops panicking because the body has already adapted. Posture alone influences mindset more than most people realize. A collapsed body sends a signal of defeat, fatigue, or insecurity. An upright body sends a signal of readiness and control. The mind responds accordingly. Confidence often follows posture, not the other way around. By adjusting the body first, you influence how you think and feel without needing to convince yourself of anything. Consistency in physical discipline builds credibility. When the body shows up every day, the mind stops questioning commitment. Doubt weakens because evidence accumulates. Each completed action becomes proof that you are capable of following through. The mind respects proof more than intention. This respect quiets internal resistance. The body also reveals truth faster than the mind. Fatigue, tension, shallow breathing, and stiffness are feedback signals. Ignoring them leads to imbalance. Responding to them builds awareness. When you listen to the body and guide it deliberately, the mind becomes more honest. It can no longer hide behind rationalizations when the body is clearly being neglected or strengthened. In moments of stress, the mind often spirals while the body remains frozen. Shifting the body breaks this loop. A few deep breaths, a change in stance, or physical movement interrupts the spiral. The mind regains clarity once the body exits paralysis. This is why physical grounding techniques work so reliably. They bypass thought and restore control directly. Discipline that begins in the body becomes sustainable because it does not rely on belief. You do not need to believe in yourself to move your body. You only need to decide. Once the body moves, belief often follows naturally. This reverses the common mistake of trying to think your way into action. Action is the doorway. Over time, the relationship between body and mind changes. The mind stops resisting commands because it trusts the body's leadership. Routine replaces resistance. Effort becomes familiar. The body becomes a stabilizing force rather than a burden. This stability allows the mind to focus on higher level thinking instead of constant self-regulation. The strongest mental states are often built on simple physical foundations. Regular movement, controlled breathing, deliberate posture, and consistent routines create a baseline of stability. From this baseline, clarity, creativity, and resilience emerge more easily. Without it, the mind is left to manage chaos alone. The body does not need motivation, it needs direction. When given clear commands repeatedly, it adapts. The mind then aligns its narratives to match this new reality. Confidence grows not because you think differently, but because you move differently. Identity shifts quietly through repeated physical obedience. When the body obeys daily, the mind learns humility. It learns that action matters more than intention and consistency more than emotion. This lesson reshapes priorities. Excuses lose power. Discipline becomes normal. The body becomes an anchor that keeps the mind from drifting too far into doubt or distraction. In the end, control is built from the ground up, starting with breath, posture, and movement, shaping thought through action, reinforcing clarity through repetition, and creating a state where the mind no longer needs to be forced, because it naturally follows the direction the body has already taken. Silence, breath, and action build inner power because they strip life down to what is essential and remove dependence on noise, emotion, and external validation. Inner power is not loud or dramatic. It is steady, grounded, and self-contained. It grows when you stop reacting and start responding, when you create space between stimulus and decision. Silence creates that space. Without silence, the mind is constantly pulled outward, chasing opinions, comparisons, and distractions. In silence, attention returns inward, where clarity begins to form. Silence is uncomfortable at first because it exposes unfiltered thought. When external noise disappears, unresolved emotions and doubts rise to the surface. Many people avoid silence for this reason, but avoidance weakens awareness. Sitting in silence teaches observation without judgment. You begin to notice patterns in your thinking, the repetition of fears, the habits of self-talk. This observation is power because what is seen clearly can be controlled. Silence does not remove problems. It reveals them honestly. In silence, the nervous system settles. The body shifts out of constant alertness and into a state of readiness without tension. This calm is not laziness, it is alert stillness. From this state, decisions are cleaner and reactions slower. You stop being dragged by impulse and start choosing deliberately. Inner power depends on this ability to pause. Without pause, there is only reaction, and reaction is always controlled by something external. Breath is the bridge between silence and action. It is the one function that is both automatic and controllable. By controlling breath, you gain access to the body's internal state. Slow, deep breathing sends a signal of safety to the nervous system. Shallow, rushed breathing signals threat. The mind responds accordingly. When breath is steady, the mind steadies. When breath is chaotic, the mind follows into restlessness or fear. Breath anchors attention in the present moment. You cannot breathe in the past or the future. Every conscious breath pulls awareness back to now. This reduces anxiety and sharpens focus. Over time, this practice builds resilience. Stressful situations no longer overwhelm because breath provides an immediate tool for regulation. Inner power grows when you are no longer at the mercy of emotional surges. Breath also fuels endurance. Controlled breathing during effort allows the body to remain efficient under strain. This teaches the mind that pressure is manageable. When the body stays calm under effort, the mind learns not to panic. This lesson transfers beyond physical challenges into mental and emotional ones. Breath becomes a stabilizing force in chaos. Action completes the cycle. Silence and breath prepare the ground, but action is where power is proven. Without action, silence becomes withdrawal and breath becomes stagnation. Action turns internal control into external reality. It is through action that discipline is tested and strengthened. Small, deliberate actions build confidence because they provide evidence of capability. Action taken from silence is different from action driven by impulse. It is precise, intentional, and efficient. There is less wasted energy and less emotional noise. You move because it is necessary, not because you are trying to escape discomfort. This kind of action builds trust with yourself. Each completed act reinforces self-respect, which is a core component of inner power. When action follows controlled breath, effort becomes sustainable. You are less likely to rush or burn out. The body remains aligned with intention. The mind stays focused. This alignment creates momentum. Momentum reduces resistance. Resistance is where doubt lives. By moving consistently, doubt has less room to grow. Silence, breath, and action also reduce dependence on motivation. Motivation fluctuates, but these three elements are always available. You can always find silence, control your breath, and take a small action. This reliability creates independence. Inner power grows when you no longer wait for the right mood or external encouragement. Over time, practicing silence sharpens intuition. You become more sensitive to subtle signals from your body and environment. Breath refines this sensitivity by keeping you grounded. Action tests it against reality. This cycle strengthens judgment. Decisions become quicker and more accurate because they are informed by awareness rather than anxiety. These practices also cultivate patience. Silence teaches waiting without restlessness. Breath teaches steadiness under pressure. Action teaches persistence without drama. Patience is not passive, it is controlled endurance. Inner power relies on patience because lasting results require time. Impatience leads to reckless action or premature quitting. In moments of conflict or stress, silence prevents escalation. Breath prevents loss of control. Action provides direction. Together they create composure. Composure is often mistaken for weakness, but it is strength that does not need to announce itself. It allows you to respond rather than react, to remain stable while others become unstable. Consistency is what transforms these elements into power. Practiced occasionally, they provide relief. Practiced daily, they reshape identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who is calm, capable, and deliberate. This self-image influences behavior automatically. You no longer force discipline, it becomes natural. Silence removes unnecessary input. Breath regulates internal state. Action channels energy forward. This simplicity is deceptive because it feels ordinary. But simplicity repeated with intention creates mastery. Inner power is not built through complexity, but through faithful attention to fundamentals. As silence deepens, distractions lose their grip. As breath steadies, emotions lose their volatility. As action continues, confidence solidifies. Each element supports the others. Without silence, breath becomes rushed. Without breath, action becomes reckless. Without action, silence becomes empty. The strength that emerges from this balance is quiet and durable. It does not depend on praise, comparison, or control over others. It exists regardless of circumstance because it is rooted internally. This is why silence, breath, and action are practiced across cultures and disciplines. They address the human system directly, without illusion or excess. When you learn to sit in silence without discomfort, breathe without urgency, and act without hesitation, you stop being pushed by life and start moving through it with intention. Power stops being something you seek and becomes something you carry within yourself. Every moment you choose presence over noise, control over chaos, and deliberate movement over passive waiting. Every sunrise is a battlefield because the moment you wake up, a silent conflict begins between who you are and who you could become. The day does not start neutrally. It starts with resistance. Comfort pulls you back into sleep. Routine tries to repeat yesterday, and doubt whispers that nothing truly needs to change today. At the same time, opportunity stands quietly, asking for discipline, attention, and effort. This clash happens before the world notices, before anyone else makes a demand on you. The outcome of this first encounter shapes everything that follows. The battlefield is internal, not external. No one else sees it, and no one else can fight it for you. There are no spectators, no applause, and no immediate rewards. That is why it is so decisive. Winning when no one is watching builds integrity. Losing in private weekends resolve long before public failure appears. Each sunrise offers the same terrain, but you do not show up as the same person each time. You arrive carrying yesterday's habits, decisions, and compromises. The first enemy is comfort. It disguises itself as rest and safety, but its real weapon is stagnation. Comfort tells you that staying still is harmless, that effort can wait, that today does not require more than yesterday. It feels reasonable, even kind. But comfort's kindness is short-sighted. It keeps you exactly where you are while convincing you that this is enough. On the battlefield of the morning, comfort tries to win by preventing movement altogether. Delay is comfort's strongest ally. Delay does not say no, it says later. It promises cooperation while quietly sabotaging momentum. When you delay action at sunrise, you weaken the authority of your own decisions. The mind learns that intentions do not require immediate obedience. This lesson spreads. Tasks are postponed, standards soften, and urgency fades. The battlefield becomes easier to surrender each day because the habit of retreat has been reinforced. The weapon you carry into this battle is discipline. Discipline does not rely on mood or inspiration. It operates on principle. When the alarm sounds or the light enters the room, discipline responds without negotiation. It understands that hesitation is how battles are lost. Discipline moves the body before the mind can argue. It creates action where thought would create excuses. The body is the first line of attack. Standing up, making the bed, stretching, breathing deeply are not trivial acts. They are tactical moves. Each physical action establishes control. The body obeys and the mind follows. This sequence matters. Trying to win the morning through thought alone often fails because thought is slow and vulnerable to doubt. Movement is decisive. The environment also plays a role in the battlefield. Light, silence, and space can either support or undermine your position. A chaotic environment strengthens resistance. An orderly one reduces friction. Preparing your surroundings in advance is part of strategy. You do not wait until the battle begins to choose your weapons. You set conditions that favor discipline before the sunrise arrives. Mental resistance intensifies as soon as you act. The mind questions the necessity of effort. It compares today to easier days. It invents reasons to stop. This resistance is not a sign of failure. It is proof that the battle is real. Expecting resistance and acting anyway is how strength is built. Each time you push through, resistance loses credibility. Breath becomes critical under pressure. Shallow breath feeds panic and urgency. Controlled breath stabilizes the nervous system. On this battlefield, breath is a shield. It keeps you calm and focused. With steady breathing, you can act without rushing and persist without strain. Panic is costly, composure is efficient. The battle is often won or lost in the first few minutes. Small victories accumulate quickly. Once momentum is established, effort feels lighter. The hardest part is crossing the initial threshold from stillness into motion. This is where most defeats occur, not because the enemy is strong, but because the resistance feels convincing. There is also an enemy that wears your own voice. Self-doubt questions your capability. It reminds you of past failures and unfinished goals. It tries to reduce the importance of today. But the battlefield does not care about history. It only responds to action in the present moment. Engaging with doubt wastes time. Moving forward silences it. Winning the morning does not mean exhausting yourself. It means asserting control. You do not need to conquer everything at sunrise. You only need to establish direction. A few disciplined actions are enough to claim territory. Once claimed, it becomes easier to defend throughout the day. Repeated victories change identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who shows up, someone who does not retreat when effort is required. This identity is armor. It makes future battles less costly because confidence replaces hesitation. Confidence built through action is durable because it is earned. Losses also shape identity, which is why they must be addressed immediately. A lost morning does not have to become a lost day, but unexamined losses repeat. The battlefield returns every sunrise with the same challenge. You do not get fewer battles as you grow. You become better prepared. Over time, the battlefield becomes familiar. You recognize the tactics of comfort and delay. You anticipate resistance. You prepare responses. This familiarity reduces fear. The morning stops feeling overwhelming and starts feeling purposeful. Purpose transforms effort into meaning. Every sunrise offers a clean slate, but it does not erase habits. You bring your training with you. Discipline practiced yesterday shows up as readiness today. Neglect shows up as resistance. The battlefield reflects your preparation honestly. The fight is not about aggression, but about presence. Showing up fully, acting deliberately, and refusing to surrender control are the core strategies. You do not need to dominate the day, you need to lead it. Leadership begins at sunrise, before anyone else makes a demand, before distractions arrive, before excuses organize. Each morning asks the same question in a different light. Will you move forward or remain where you are? Will you command yourself or be commanded by comfort? Will you act now or delay? Again, the answer is given not in thought but in movement, not in intention but in execution, not in words but in the quiet decisions made while the world is still waking up